Hello, students. This is your next flipped grammar lesson, and it's lesson 12. We will be studying possessive nouns in this lesson. So, get out your whisk worksheet and a pen or a pencil so that we can get started. At the top of your whisk worksheet, write the unit of study, possessive nouns, and put down in the W section when and where you watched this video. Now, we're ready to begin. If we say that a noun is a possessive noun, that means it shows ownership, belonging, or possession. So, in this case, we would use an apostrophe in order to show that that noun has ownership, belonging, or possession of something else. Now, during this entire lesson, we're going to be very careful not to confuse possessive nouns with last week's lesson on plural nouns. Because in the spoken word, both of them often sound like they end with the S sound, sometimes people make mistakes on these. So let's look at some of the rules and examples that will help us avoid those mistakes in the future. The first and most basic rule deals with singular nouns. Of course, a singular noun can be possessive because a singular noun can own something or possess something. The easiest thing to do is to remember that singular nouns just add an apostrophe S to the end of that singular noun in order to show that it is possessive. Let's look at the examples on the page. Jack's bicycle was stolen yesterday. There's only one Jack, and he owns the bicycle that's being discussed in the sentence. So, we add apostrophe S to the end of his name. Next, a crab's shell washed up on the beach. There's only one crab that's being discussed in this sentence, and so that shell is owned by a singular noun. So we would put crab apostrophe S to show possession of a singular noun. That part was easy, but this is where it can get a little bit tricky, because sometimes plural nouns can also be possessive. For a plural possessive noun, if it already ends with an S, you put the apostrophe on the end. So let's look at these examples. The boys' helmets were full of sand. By putting the apostrophe after the S in boys, I know that there is more than one boy whose helmets we are talking about. There might be 3, 4, or 20 boys that we could be talking about because the word boys is plural. It's also possessive, S apostrophe. Next, the sea lion's cries could be heard down the whole beach. We're obviously talking about more than one sea lion in this sentence. There could be a whole group of sea lions that are being discussed. So, S apostrophe shows that it's plural and possessive. You might remember from last week that not all plural nouns end with an S. Sometimes the plural noun ends in another way. It might be irregular. If the plural noun does not already end with an S, you follow the same rule that you do for singular possessive, and just add an apostrophe S to the end. So in these examples, let's take a look at what we did. 5 geese's feathers were all that remained. Geese is already plural by itself without adding an S to the end. Remember, the singular form is goose. But if I wanted to say there's 5 geese, that's plural, and they all have these feathers that are being discussed in the sentence. So I just add apostrophe S to show that it's plural and possessive. Next, the women's hats protected them from the sun. Women is the plural of woman, so it doesn't end in an S already. So I just add an apostrophe S to show that it's both plural and possessive. Now that you've got the rules in place, it's time to apply them. In the next few slides, I want you to try to place the apostrophe in the proper place. It might be an apostrophe S or an S apostrophe situation. Of course, the word could just be plural, in which case it would not use an apostrophe at all. Let's give it a try. Place the apostrophe in these sentences. The Normans like to help their father fish. Anne Norman's father fishes at the seashore. In the first sentence, you would not use an apostrophe at all. The Normans are just plural, so there's no possession that's being shown in this sentence. We just add the S to the end of their last name, Norman. However, in the second sentence, Anne Norman's father is a possessive phrase. So we put an apostrophe S after Anne Norman's name in order to show that it's her father. Anne Norman's father fishes at the seashore. Let's try that again. Place the apostrophe in these sentences. I was careful to make sure my snorkel's tube did not get water in it. We brought our snorkels to look underwater. In this case, the first sentence gets an apostrophe because the tube belongs to the snorkel. It's part of it. I was careful to make sure my snorkel's tube did not get water in it shows possession, so we'll use apostrophe S. However, in the second sentence, we are only talking about a plural, not a possessive. We are just talking about more than one snorkel in that sentence. No apostrophe needed. Here's one more to try. Place the apostrophe in these sentences. Families love to gather at the seashore. 3 families' gear was left by the rocky landing. This is another one that's tricky because they both end with that S sound, even though one is plural and possessive. So let's be careful to put the apostrophe in the right place. Sentence 1 is simply talking about more than one family. It's plural and not possessive, so don't use an apostrophe in sentence 1. However, in sentence 2, we're talking about 3 families and they own the gear that's being discussed in the sentence. Therefore, it's plural and possessive, and we would put an apostrophe on the end. I hope you were able to find the correct place to put the apostrophe on the previous slides. Here are some challenging situations where you might have many possessives together, and a lot of kids wonder where they should put the apostrophe in these cases. Well, when more than one noun possesses something together, you put the apostrophe after the last one. So, in this sentence, Caesar and Maribel's home is lovely. Caesar and Maribel obviously both own that same home. So we would put the apostrophe S after our final noun that has the possession. Apostrophe S after Maribel. However, when those 2 nouns possess something separate, each noun gets its own apostrophe. Caesar's and Maribel's rooms are always messy. Because of the way we put the apostrophe S in each noun, we know that they have separate rooms. Even as an adult, you are going to see a lot of apostrophe mistakes. Please keep in mind that apostrophes are used to show that a noun is possessive, not plural. The only other time you would correctly use an apostrophe is to make a contraction, and there are a few kinds. The first 2 examples on this page are the type of contraction you're used to. So for example, to put it and is together, you can make its, it apostrophe S. That shows it is. Next, can and not put together makes can't with an apostrophe T, showing where those missing letters go. These are the easy contractions you're used to. Look down at the last 2. If we were talking about the decade, the 80s, we're kind of abbreviating 1980s, so you're contracting it in a way. So put that apostrophe in front of 80. Next, in a word like twas or some other poetic phrase where some of the letters are taken off of a word, you would put an apostrophe to show that you've contracted or shortened that word in order to make it sound a little bit nicer. Put the apostrophe in place of the missing letters. Next, let's look at some mistakes that adults make with apostrophes. Can you spot the mistake on this sign? If you said there should be no apostrophe at all, you're correct. Restrooms is plural, not possessive, there's no object that's being owned. So, the word restrooms should simply have an S at the end of restroom. No apostrophe needed. Here's another one. Where's the mistake? If you said there should not be an apostrophe in pies, you are correct. Pies doesn't own anything on this sign. It should just be plural. Take the apostrophe out of there. On this last example, I've included a sign that has two mistakes. Can you spot them? Let's see how you did. First, let's look at the word kids. In this phrase, kids play area, we're showing that the play area belongs to the kids. So we should use an apostrophe here. There should be an apostrophe after the S in kids because it's plural and possessive. But then, look at the word residence. They put an apostrophe there even though there's no object afterwards that the residents own. So, take the apostrophe out of the word residence. It's just plural. Now that we're almost done with this video, it's time to complete the WISC worksheet. In the S section, write a 5-sentence summary of what you learned from the video. Feel free to go back in the video to watch again in order to make sure your summary is complete. Then, in the Q section, write a question you might have about something you did not understand in the video. As always, if you have no questions, then write a test question for your classmates. As you're working on your WISC worksheet, I'm going to leave you with a very special treat, a music video. Are you ready? You belong to a person, place, or thing, so add an S to hang around with an apostrophe. You know it doesn't just go anywhere, don't you? Singular nouns just add apostrophe and S, but plural nouns you do something else, you know. Plural S and put the apostrophe on the end. Apostrophe S if it's irregular, in most cases unless it's a rule breaker. Owning and belonging when your words realize that those possessive nouns show your mind, you're all mine. If you could see that I'm the one who understands you, got the rules all down, so why can't you see? You belong to me. Use an apostrophe.